In today's news, good news for road users of Rundu. Two Ukrainian nationals share the horrors that their countrymen are experiencing. These stories and more coming up later in the broadcast. I am Glenna Rashipura and this is NMH at 1, where we bring you up to speed with the current events and news making headlines. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. In our latest news, the U.S. Department of State's Assistant Secretary for African Affairs, Molly Fee, will conduct a virtual briefing on the Russian aggression in Ukraine this afternoon. Addressing African journalists, she will expand on the context of the impact of the conflict of the nations of the African continent. We take a trip around the country when we come back with visual news from across Namibia. Stay with us. Welcome back to NMH at 1. Now let's take a look at our visual news from across the regions. Now, two Ukrainian nationals sat down with our correspondent in Erongo region, Micheline Nawatises, to share the horrors that their countrymen are experiencing. Let's have a look.
My name is Olga Nesterenko. I have been living here in Namibia for a long time, for more than 10 years already. I love this country, I love to be here, and I love everything what I see here. I like to take picture, but unfortunately my life here is completely changed from 24th of February, from 5 o'clock in the morning. For now, till now, not all people understand what is going on. Some people are under Russia propaganda, and this is very difficult situation because they are really like zombies. They don't understand what is going on right now. They still believe that there are no any fight, there are no civilian deaths. They don't believe in everything. And some people just thinking about that this is geopolitics and this is a war between USA and Russia. Okay, you can think what do you think, but we want to explain people. I'm originally from Ukraine, and we want to explain people at least our position, our situation, how we see this from our side, from for people who is in Ukraine now.
I'm Kate, and I'm here since January 1st. I started my visit Namibia as vacation, and I'm here with my two kids. We came here to visit this beautiful country and to see attractions. I had to go to my country, Ukraine, on March 6th. But on February 24th, I realized that I don't have where to go back. That morning, my friends, my co-workers, my parents and my brother who are in Ukraine now, they woke up because of rockets and because of explosions. They just left everything they have in their houses, clothing, all the stuff, money, cars, just imagine, because they wanna stay safe, they wanna save their lives. Some of them went to the closest borders to save their kids. But it was a really long journey for them, and they are still continue this journey because there are traffic jams. A lot of roads are closing. Some bridges are destroyed by Russian army. So it took them around 3-4 days to go to the border and cross the border, because these women, they just want to save their kids. But a lot of people, like my parents now and my brother, they decided to stay in Ukraine because this is their country, and they are now in Shetler. Today is the 6th day that they are in the Shetler, just because this is only the safe place, because it's underground. The thing is, no one works, kitchens no works, there are no logistics. So people are running out of food and even running out of water. My mom just told me this morning that because 3 days ago she told me, like, we are okay, everything will be okay, don't worry, please. But this morning she told me, I'm really scary, I can.
In our next video, there's some good news for road users of Rundu. Kenya Kambowe shows us more in this clip. Let's have a look.
After years of enduring potholes on Rundu's Independence Avenue, this will soon be a thing of the past, as Town Council, with the assistance of the Road Fund Administration, has appointed a contractor to rehabilitate the road, which has been a headache for motorists. Furthermore, another contractor has been appointed to rehabilitate gravel roads around the town, which have been a nightmare for both residents and visitors.
The Commerce Times school newspaper was handed out to learners of David Besedenhood, Commerce Tura and Ella Duplessis high schools in the capital yesterday. Now, the Zone School newspaper initiative includes over 50 schools from across the country. This clip is by Elizabeth Joseph. When we return, we'll be taking a sneak peek inside today's daily print publications. But first, a quick ad break.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag payback the money.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Now let's take a look at our local newspapers. The Namibian Sun on its page 1 leads with a situation regarding hepatitis E and other virus outbreaks. The paper, however, focuses on the fact that it took 66 deaths and 8,092 infections before the battle against hepatitis E was won. Now, the Namibian Sun on its page 3 focuses on what is regarded as discriminatory domestic violence bill. Notwithstanding substantial lobbying, the domestic violence bill still makes a difference between relationships between men and women as opposed to people of the same sex. Now, the Republican leads with an update about the export of part of the 170 elephants that were sold by the Namibian government on an auction previously. Now, the paper reports that Gerry Odendal of Hobabes apparently loaded his 22 animals onto an Illusion 76 transport plane at the Hosea Kutako International Airport yesterday. Now, the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism seems to refuse to say where the animals are taken to. The Republican brings an interesting article on page 3 explaining that the mining company Afritin has discovered spodumene in its mining area. Now, spodumene is a peroxide mineral consisting of lithium, aluminium, and inosilicates. It's a source of lithium. In the meantime, Zinfech Investment is preparing to engage in mining in the region of Omaruru. Now, the Allgemeine Zeitung focuses on the Ministry of Health and Social Services, which has formally declared the outbreak of hepatitis E as having come to an end. At the same time, Minister Kalumbi Shangula pointed to other virus infections such as typhoid fever and malaria as still being a challenge for Namibia. On its page 3, the Allgemeine Zeitung focuses on the fact that the Canadian gas and oil exploration company, Reconnaissance Energy Africa, has issued more than 7.4 million shares and thereby raised additional shares capital of 4.75 million Canadian dollars. This comes at a time where an American court in Brooklyn, New York, decided to combine all charges into one class action against Recon Africa, which stands accused of various investors as having violated financial securities in the USA. Now, the Namibian on its front page is taking a look at the main winners and losers in the budget that was presented by the Minister of Finance, Ipombo Shimi, last week. The government now seems bent on renovating and upgrading the complete railway infrastructure. The Namibian on its page 3 focuses on the fact that hairstyles once again seem to keep the educational system busy. The Ministry of Education has now warned schools not to send pupils home over hairstyles that teachers take exception to. Similar to the Allgemeine Zeitung and the Namibian Sun, the New Era also focuses on the end of the hepatitis E outbreak that has plagued Namibians since 2017. The paper expands on the fact that an epidemic has been successfully countered once no new cases have been identified for longer than 20 weeks. Now, on page 3, the New Era brings an article about the two forest traders, Michael Amushelelo and Gregory Klute, who are apparently still in the process of mobilizing funds in order to hire a senior advocate to represent them at their trial that is coming up these days. Now, they requested that their trial be postponed for that reason. Under the title, Namibia is Flying Blind, the Market Watch focuses on the fact that the census has once again been postponed, thus leaving planners, analysts and the government itself without access to relevant information. Analysts expect this to negatively impact on the Namibian economy. Some great stories for lined up in our daily newspapers. We stay with economic news after the break. Welcome back to NMH at 1. Now let's have a look at our economic news stories. Now, Total Energies could lose South African license if no output plan by September. Now, oil major Total Energies could see its license to develop major offshore South African gas finds scrapped if it does not submit a production plan by September, the oil and gas regulator said on Thursday. Now, Total Energies discovered two large gas fields, Bulpada and Leopard, in offshore blocks about 175 kilometers off South Africa's southern coast in 2019 and 2020. Now, their exploration right is expiring in September 2022. Findile Masangene, chief executive of the Petroleum Agency South Africa, told Reuters. Now, at the government's request, Total Energy has fast-tracked the development of the Leopard prospect, which could connect to an existing offshore platform run by national oil company PetroSA via a subsea pipeline of less than 100 kilometers. Now, Masangene said Total Energies was in the late stages of talks over a potential gas offtake agreement with PetroSA to supply its gas to liquid refinery plant at Mossel Bay, which is currently operating well below its capacity due to the dwindling local gas reserves. Now, in our next story, January boost overdrafts. Growth in credit extended to household edged higher at 3.2% at the end of January this year, compared to the 2.1% a month earlier, according to the Bank of Namibia Money and Banking Statistics. Now, the increase was reflected across all the credit categories, but more specifically in overdraft credit category, the central bank said. Now, credit extended to businesses rose by 2.0% at the end of January 2022, compared to a contraction of 0.1% a month ago. The increase reflects a rise in demand for short-term credit facilities, specifically by corporates in the agricultural, fishing, transport sectors, bonds said. Now, according to Simon Storm, the increase in overdraft in January could be as a result of overspending over the festive season and households in general being short on cash. On average, in the last 10 years, overdraft credit growth exceeded the annual average of the preceding year in all years for corporates, but only 7 out of the last 10 years of the households. Overall, private sector credit extension growth rose to 2.7% at the end of January 2022 from a growth rate of 1.2% at the end of December 2022, driven by both household and businesses. Now, in our next story, fuel is a key input in various industries of the economy. Now, the increase in fuel prices and further expected increments in the coming months could have massive inflationary ripple effects on other goods and services. According to Simon Storm economist Theo Klein, given our weaker rand and higher global oil price expectations, we do foresee 2 consecutive fuel price hikes in February and March 2022. Now, the surge in Brent crude could lead to higher inflation across the globe, especially in oil importing countries. This has the potential of hastening interest rate normalization, potentially more interest rate hikes than what was previously forecasted. Faster than expected rises in interest rates will further weigh in on overall economic activity. Now, Namibia, as a small open economy in the global oil market, will remain vulnerable to these effects, he said. Now, the repo rate currently stands at 4.00% and the prime lending rate at 7.75%. The next monetary policy announcement by the Bank of Namibia is expected to take place on the 13th April 2022. Interest rates can be used as a tool to control inflation. Now, let's have a look at our economic indicators. Bad news for the British pound and euro, which have gone down in value as the US dollar maintains its position, trading at 15 Namibian dollars and 33 cents. First Rand Namibia observed a stock price increase of 0.01%, with the most stock listing remaining the same. The overall index closed at a price 0.54% lower than the previous closing price. The opposite is true for overall local index, which closed at 0.03% increase. Now, the markets look good for commodities, with all of them increasing in value. Gold rose by 3.34% and zinc by 3.07%. We'll be back shortly with the news from across the continent. To stay with us. Welcome back to NMH at 1. Now let's take a look at our African news. Now, at least 10 died in a landslide at a gold mine in Guinea. Now, at least 10 people were killed by a landslide at a gold mine in Consital in northwestern Guinea, a local official said on Wednesday. Now, the landslide occurred Tuesday in this mine, which had been closed but continued to be exploited, said Wednesday to AFP. Mamadou Cherif Dailo, mayor of Consital, a rural commune in the Boka region. Now, landslides on gold sites are frequent and often deadly in Guinea. At least 15 people were killed in May 2021 by a landslide at a clandestine gold mine near Siguri in northeastern Guinea. Now, although Guinea's subsoil is full of minerals, bauxite, diamonds, and gold, the majority of the population faces serious daily survival problems. More than 1 in 2 Guinea lives in poverty, according to the UN. But gold also attracts illegal immigrants from Mali, Senegal, and other West African countries. Now, in our next story, South African universities started to implement soft mandates requiring students to provide proof of vaccination to access the campus. Now, from Tuesday, unvaccinated students and staff can only access online learning. Student representatives have denounced the policy as incomplete and elitist. The director of legal services at the University of Western Cape, Shervan Raji, explained the new policy. He explained that the university was what he would call a soft mandate in terms of the interim vaccination policy, which means that a student can register to study but cannot come onto campus unless they are vaccinated. Responding to students' concerns, a representative of the University of Western Cape defended the move, claiming that it is based on science. Now, they said that research done at the university has also contributed to this approach when it comes to the interim COVID-19 vaccination policy, and that it is based on science. Now, in our next story, desert locust upsurge in Horn of Africa ends, says FAO. Now, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations on Wednesday said the desert locust upsurge that ravaged the Horn of Africa for more than 2 years has ended. Now, the current desert locust upsurge has finally ended in the Horn of Africa after more than 2 years of intensive survey and control operations carried out by ground and air with generous support from the international community. the FAO said in its latest desert locust situation update. Now, according to the FAO, for nearly the second consecutive month, no significant locust infestation had been detected in Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya during February. Now, the UN agency, however, stressed that although rain has not fallen recently and ecological conditions are dry, science suggests that a few residual infestations may still be present. Up next, we'll be taking a look at international news right after the break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Now let's look at our international news stories. Now hundreds of migrants scale fence cross into Spain's Melilla enclave. Now more than 2,500 migrants attempted to climb a high border fence separating Spain's North African enclave of Melilla from Morocco on Wednesday, and around 500 managed to cross into Spanish territory, local authorities said. Now, the central government in Melilla said in a statement the migrants from sub-Saharan Africa were armed with hooks, sticks and screws and threw stones as security forces tried to stop them from climbing the 6-meter fence. Now, 16 police officers were injured and 20 migrants were being treated for minor injuries, the central government said. Now, Melilla and Ceuta, a second Spanish enclave also on Africa's northern coast, are popular crossing points for illegal African migrants trying to get into Europe. Now, in the next story, UN General Assembly demands Russia withdraw troops from Ukraine. Now, most of the world's nations have voted in favor of United Nations resolution demanding that Russia immediately, completely and unconditionally withdraw its military forces from Ukraine in a powerful rebuke of Moscow's invasion of its neighbor. Now, the resolution was adopted on Wednesday at a rare emergency session of the UN General Assembly and was supported by 141 of the UN's 193 members. Now, China, India, and South Africa were among the 35 countries that abstained, while just 5 voted against it. Now, the resolution deplores Russia's aggression against Ukraine and condemns President Vladimir Putin's decision to put nuclear forces on alert. While General Assembly resolutions are non-binding, they carry political weight, with Wednesday's vote representing a symbolic victory for Ukraine and increasing Moscow's international isolation. Now, Modi discusses plight of Indian students trapped in Ukraine in our next story. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has held talks with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the urgent evacuation of Indian students trapped in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, the Kremlin says. Now, during their video call on Wednesday, Putin said he had ordered Russian soldiers to ensure the safe exit of Indian nationals from the armed conflict zone and their return to their homeland, according to a Kremlin statement. Russia was trying to organize the emergency evacuation of a group of Indian students from Kharkiv via a humanitarian corridor, it added. Now, meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry on Wednesday said the Ukrainian authorities were holding a group of Indian students by force. They have practically been taken hostage, ministry spokesperson Igor Kornashikov said during a televised briefing. But Indian media reported today that New Delhi has denied reports of its students being held as hostages in Ukraine. We'll be back with more news right after the break. Welcome back to NMH at 1. Now let's take a look at our local sports news. Now, horse racing on carts. The Epukiro and Okahanja horse racing clubs are jointly hosting a horse racing competition on 26 March at Okahanja. Now, the event will see horses competing in numbered beginner, numbered maiden, numbered graduation, D division and A division thoroughbred divisions. One of the organizers, Irishua Murangi, is inviting horse owners to register their horses in what is expected to be a fast and furious battle of some of the top race horses. Now, the event will also be used to promote the well-being of race jockeys. In our next story, Wrestling Federation elects new ESCO team. Now, the Namibia Wrestling Federation this week announced the appointment of new executive members. The members who were selected at the Federation's annual general meeting last month will head and manage the board for the next 4 years. The ESCO members comprise of President Patrick Muir, Vice President Gabriel Gurirap, Secretary General Roseanne van der Merwe, Assistant Secretary Johannes Hohamuteni, Treasurer Almeri van der Merwe, Technical Stefan Leroux, and Chief Coach Charles van der Merwe. Now, in our next story, Independence Stadium revamp process begins. Sports Minister Agnes Shongarero has revealed that documentation process to revamp the deliberated Independence Stadium has begun, with the ministry still deliberating on dates and processes involving the tendering for the renovation. Now, this is after government availed $50 million Namibian from the national budget towards the renovation of the stadium. Do stay with us as we move on to international sports news right after the break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Now let's look at our international sports news. Now, Kaizer Chiefs stalwart Bernard Parker is on the cusp of achieving a remarkable milestone against Soweto Derby rivals Orlando Pirates. Arch rivals Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates are set to meet for the 175th time on Saturday, when the two giants of South African football go head-to-head in the latest installment of the highly anticipated. Now, Russia and Belarus athletes unable to compete at Winter Games. Athletes from Russia and Belarus will not be allowed to compete at the 2022 Winter Paralympics in Beijing. The International Paralympic Committee was heavily criticized after initially allowing the athletes to compete as neutrals. A statement on Thursday said the situation in the athlete villages had become untenable. Now, in our next story, Klopp hails Minamino Jurgen Klopp raced top-class Takamino Minamino at his 2 goals in short. Liverpool followed up their Carabao Cup triumph by beating Norwich to reach the FA Cup quarter-finals. Now, Minamino grabs his chance of a return to the starting line-up with 2 first-half goals against the Canaries. Now, that brings us to the end of the sports news segment. Do stay with us for highlights right after the break.
Choose your Flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
If you've just joined us, here are the main takeaways from today's show. Now, the U.S. Department of State's Assistant Secretary for African Affairs, Molly Fee, will conduct a virtual briefing on the Russian aggression in Ukraine this afternoon. Addressing African journalists, she will expand on the context of the impact of the conflict on the nations of the African continent. Now, at least 10 people were killed on Tuesday by landslide at a gold mine in Count Sitel, which had been closed but continued to be exploited in the northwestern Guinea, a local official said. Now, more than 2,500 migrants attempted to climb a high border fence separating Spain's North African enclave of Melilla from Morocco on Wednesday, and around 500 managed to cross into Spanish territory, local authorities said. The Epukiro and Okahanja horse racing clubs are jointly hosting a horse racing competition on 26 March at Okahanja. The event will see horse competing in Numbred Beginner, Numbred Maiden, Numbred Graduation, D Division and A Division, Thoroughbred divisions. One of the organizers, Irishua Murangi, is inviting horse owners to register their horses in what is expected to be a fast and furious battle of some of the top races. The event will also be used to promote the well-being of race jockeys. Now, Kaiser Chiefs stalwart Bernard Parker is on the cusp of achieving a remarkable milestone against Soweto Derby rivals, Orlando Pirates. Arch rivals Kaiser Chiefs and Orlando Pirates are set to meet for the 175th time on Saturday when the two giants of the South African football go head-to-head in the latest installment of the highly anticipated Soweto Derby. Total Energies could lose South African license if no output plan by September. Now, oil major Total Energies could see its license to develop a major offshore South African gas field scrapped if it does not submit a production plan by September, the oil and gas regulator said on Thursday. Those were your highlights, and you can catch us at the same time tomorrow. I am Glenn Rashipura, and I'll look forward to taking you through the latest news and current affairs in Namibia, in Africa, and beyond, right here on NMH at 1. But before that, let's have a look at regional review.
Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome back to another edition of the Regional Review. My name is Enzo Amuela, the correspondent for Namibia Media Holdings here in the Central North. And today is World Book Day. As you can see, I'm seated here in Namvok Vocational Institute here in Okakarara. And please do stay tuned. Welcome back from our Daily 8 viewers. First up in our news, the governor of Ochanurupa region, James Werika, handed over 21 wheelchairs to the 7 constituency councillors in Ochivarongo. The wheelchairs were initially handed over to the governor of Oshana region, Elia Irimari, and they were donated by the running group. There were initially 350, and it was divided equally amongst the 14 regions. And James Werika urged the councillors to go on ground and evaluate and see the people who are really in need of the wheelchairs.
The situation on the ground better, you are able to identify who are those with needs in terms of wheelchairs. And as we establish the advisory council, your officers will also be requested to recommend people with disability in your various constituencies for them to constitute part of the advisory council, which is about to be launched soon, but we need to have the names concluded. As a concept note, and the framework is already agreed upon and is concluded. Having said that, this event is actually to hand over these wheelchairs to you officially, as we have been given by the Rani Group of Companies through the Governor of Oshana Region, Comrade Elia Irimari, that now we are handing it over to yourselves as councillors who are in touch with the sovereigns on a daily basis, who understand the dynamics in every constituency. You are able to identify those that are in need, and as a result, you will be able to provide assistance wherever such a need will arise. So the 21 wheelchairs will be for the constituencies, given to each constituency councillor, and I'm urging you as constituency councillors, do get hold of your faith-based leaders, religious leaders, traditional authority leaders, and local authority leaders. These are the leaders that are also in touch with the nitty-gritties and of our society, for them to be able to identify and provide you with the correct individuals or Namibians that you should benefit from this product that we have. It's a gesture that we take very seriously, and we want to thank the Rani Group of Companies. We want to thank the Honorable Governor of Oshana Region and all the other regional governors for this effort that we have put together. And equally, I want to thank all the constituency councillors for Osholinjupa Region for your determination, for your steadfastness, for your good working relationship and cooperation and coordination in executing government work. And I think, and of course confidently so, that going forward as a region, we are able to propel ourselves to greater heights in terms of service delivery and ensuring that our region is a united and socially developed region for the common good of its people.
Regional councillors of Ochozonjupa region, we are having a lot of requests in terms of wheelchairs. We are sitting with adults, children. If you go to the social pay points, you see elderly that are coming carried by others because they need to come and collect their monthly pensions. Those are the target groups that we are going to look at, Honorable Governor. We are also looking at the children. We are seeing every morning that some children have been carried to schools because they are not having the mobility they need to walk themselves to school. Honorable Governor, I'd like to inform you on this note also that we are in discussion with a German company that we are looking at establishing a school with special needs in the region. We will be starting with Ochivarongo, where we will at least put up 2 classrooms for children with special needs.
Well, it is an indication that private companies are ensuring that they uphold their status of social corporate responsibility within communities. And next up in our news, the governor also hosted the councillors in the Ochozonjupa region where they raised concerns such as poor funding at the council level and that there is no money to actually carry out activities in the communities. Councillors raised issues such as members of the residents approaching them asking for even the smallest amounts such as $10.
Of a series of regional consultations with various stakeholders that we are doing as leadership of the region with the aim of trying to craft a plan, trying to foster an element of coordination, cooperation, and active participation on a daily basis as far as community activities are concerned, as far as national development agenda is concerned. It's part of implementing the theme of the year, which is reimagine
itself, and the most challenge which we are facing there is water. So you will see that in GAM settlements they are still falling under rural water supply, and it's a challenge as we are talking. Those people, they don't have water there, and rural water supply they are on the ground in GAM there. And
but obviously, as was said by my chairperson, one of the issues that we also did for the very first time in the history of the regional council that brought about all those realization was to be part of the budgeting team. And we took part in that exercise. and we saw it as a very important aspect for us to start to understand why perhaps we don't have money at the different vote, and
people are starting, when it comes to distributing drugs, maybe within the whole region, the epicenter is Ogaden when it comes to drugs abuse. Last time I spoke to regional commander, he said there was even a vehicle that was just going to Ogaden. So imagine a vehicle. So they have
With
to do-
drugs?
With drugs. So
A
they have
full
to,
vehicle?
they have to do a very big distribution, but people are working hard on it, and then even some of us have started to do some groundwork.
These engagements between the governor and the regional councillors is to strengthen the relationship between this body and to ensure that the service is delivered promptly in the constituencies and all over the region. Next up in our news, Tsumeb Youth is to benefit from an investment of 3 million. The Tsumeb leadership and Dundee Precious Metals have entered into a 3-year investment agreement valued at 3 million to uplift livelihoods in the town and assist youth. This is in line with government's focus on youth-centered entrepreneurship as set out in the national budget that was tabled on Thursday. The town mayor Mateus Hangula said the investment will meet government halfway and at the same time address the dependency syndrome suffered by many youths. The agreement is set to benefit the vulnerable members of the community with initial focus on agricultural projects. Viewers, that brings us to the end of our news segment for today. Now we head over to an interview with a Namvok electrical engineering instructor in Okakarara. She tells us more about Namvok and she shares with us her journey and how Namvok is doing now.
Hi Namibia, my name is Jane Maharero. I'm a senior electrical instructor at Namvok Vocational Institute. I started my journey at Okakarara VTC and I went on to College of Cape Town, and after that is when I was employed here at Namvok. I also did TVET vocational at NAST, and I'm still continuing studying because studies never end. I am a woman in a man's world, and that is one of the motivations that I go about every day, because this is it's man-it-man's type of world, but we're here and we're doing it as a woman. And I don't know, is it because that it was founded by, this institute was founded by a woman, that it is more in a gender equality basis, because Namvok has traits that each trainer is a man and a woman, a female and a male in each trait. And we're proud of the equality that is happening at Namvok. Namvok was officially the idea of our late director, Ms. Sunshine Godi Upi, who founded this institution. Its incubation stage was early 2012, but it opened its doors officially in 2015. It started off very small with only 2 trades and 90-something students. It started off with the electrical general and office administration as trades. And we have grown drastically over the years to now having added on 5 more trades onto that, which is air conditioning and refrigeration, livestock, 2 newer trades that are also in incubation stage, which is livestock husbandry and early childhood development. NMVOC is a non-profit organization that has been existent since its 2015, as we said, and is growing drastically with, as you can see, or if you will see behind us, we have a virgin land that we have to develop. This is the goal for 2030, educating the Namibian child. We would want to expand, and we would like to expand the institute further. And we've graduated over 100 students last year, because that was our first graduation. So far, the community feedback is very pleasing. We have, as we are the second institute in Okakarara, but we do not have a direct competition with Okakarara VTC, because we try to complement Okakarara VTC by having fields that are not necessarily at Okakarara VTC, and we hold hands together to educate our Namibian children. We are all in the same boat and all fighting to fulfill the Mission 2030. Namibia's biggest goal in TVET is inclusive education, and we have been trying to strive for this inclusive education by having a flexible admission structure. We are having admissions for the old system grade 12, old system grade 10, 16 points, grade 11 new system. And we also take bridging course students coming from kayak or Science Pioneer. We have the first level 3s in Namibia to graduate for solar installation equipment and maintenance, as we are the only 2 vocationals, being us and Enana VTC, that has this trade, that offers this trade. It's quite amazing to see the number of female students that are being enrolled in TVET programs. It is an indication that we are really, Namibia is really industrializing and having inclusive education. Before I leave, I would like to tell you that NMVOC admissions is still open. I would like to thank you so much for having me on the regional review, and see you soon.
It is quite interesting to see women in a men field, as they say, and it was quite inspirational there by Ms. Jane Maharero. And well, viewers, we have come to the end of our show here today, and I hope to see you guys again next week, Thursday. Same time, different outfit, and obviously different place.